All right, joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast. If you're an old school KFS podcast head, you have heard this voice a couple times because this has officially become, I could call it this. This has become an annual tradition. Every time the Knicks play the Magic, I have on. I'm going to call him a young man, even though I don't know. Are you older than me? I'm 30. I'm on the verge of 38. How old are you?
Oh no, I'm 31, almost 32.
Okay. Oh sure.
Yeah.
So you okay? Yeah. So a young, I can say it.
I'm not. Young. No, I meant I'm not young. I'm not young.
Well, listen, you're young to me. Everybody's young to me. A young man who I will always be very gracious because of this. Got me my first gig writing about the Knicks for Elite Sports New York, and he's also become a good friend over the years. And we do this pod because he's the one person in the universe who follows, you can't write this, the New York Knicks and the Orlando Magic. Those are his two teams and have been for some time. He is the host of the Hoops Addicts Anonymous podcast, and he's also he writes about the Knicks for Hoops Habit. Chip Murphy. Chip, hello, my friend.
John, thanks for having me on again, man. Appreciate it.
Listen, any excuse to get us on here. I mean, the excuse has become anytime the Knicks play the Magic, but it doesn't take much. We have to do this for posterity's sake. Can you remind the folks at home how it is that it came to pass that you follow or cover, as it were, I guess, the Knicks and the Magic?
Well, a couple reasons. I'm a huge JJ Redick fan. I'm a Duke fan, so I liked the Magic back in the day, but I really got into them recently because I wanted the Knicks to draft Jonathan Isaac.
Oh,
and so I was a huge fan of his. I think a lot of people were, but obviously can't be upset about that. He was picked before them. Yeah. But I started following his career and watching their games, and I just got into the team. In 2017-18 was his rookie year. And I watched a lot of their games, and he didn't play very much, but I liked a lot of the guys on that team. I liked Vooch. I like Fournier. A lot of the guys that are there now. Mario Hezonja was on that team. Elfrid Payton was on that team. They were like the Island of Misfit Toys kind of team. They just had a lot of guys that were easy to root for,
Well, they still, I mean, I know a couple guys are out. I mean, Fultz, I hope, and everybody always says, I hope he's okay. How do you not root for Markelle Fultz, right? To make a recovery after what happened to him. So obviously he's not there. Fournier missed. We're recording this, I should say, on Monday, late evening, or actually no, late afternoon, early evening. The Knicks beat the Magic earlier today. Hence why we're talking about this. But yeah, no, Fournier missed the game. Fultz is out. Who else? Isaac is obviously Isaac's out for the year. I think that's
MCW's out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Been out. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's half a team right now, but they still do kind of take on that Island of Misfit Toys ethos, as it were.
Yeah, they really do. And Fultz only added to that, and he made them even more comfortable to root for. Fultz was just so easy to root for, and Vucevic gave them an all-star, obviously. So they've just been, I know, obviously a sleeper team, and they have their niche. They get the 8th seed and win one game, surprising game, and that's their thing.
Two or 3 years in a row they've done that now?
It feels like 3, but it is 2. And they just surprise you with that. And Vooch was amazing in the playoffs last year, obviously. But yeah.
I think it's so for anybody who didn't watch this game, I part of me wants to be like, you didn't miss much, but at the same time, so you're not as old as me. So I remember the 90s a little bit more clearly than you do. And this type of game to me is like, I'll watch this type of game any day of the week because it's just ugly and gross. And no, like, what do you write about this other than two teams could not buy a basket and one team made just enough shots in the end. And they both played pretty hard on defense throughout the entire affair. But I thought, the guy who stands out for the Magic is still Vooch.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, he's like the Will Smith meme in End of the Fresh Prince when he's looking around and there's no one there. That's the offense right now for the Orlando Magic. It's just him standing around. Like, it's especially with Fultz gone. Like, it's no coincidence that since he went down, that's when their 6-game losing streak started. It's just been brutal without him. it starts and ends with Vooch pretty much.
He was 10 for 16 from the field today for 24 points, pulled down 14 rebounds. I mean, the guy really is something else. Had a couple blocks that were, I thought both of them were significant in the flow of the game. But the Knicks pulled it out today. Let me ask you this from a perspective of, again, you follow the Magic pretty closely. I think fans are always leery when they beat a team who looks ugly in the game that in this instance that the Knicks have won. Is it do you put too much stock in it, or is it like, oh no, this other team just like played horribly? Like, obviously the Magic did not make a lot of shots today, but I thought what we saw today from the Magic was fairly representative of at least how they've been playing of late, which is to say not terribly well, but they could do some stuff.
Yeah, the Magic are still a good team. They're obviously at their worst right now, being that they don't have their starting point guard, and they won't for the rest of the year. But Nikola Vucevic is still an all-star player, so I think you can still take some positive away from winning this game. Yeah, I mean, Orlando is hoping to at some point compete for a playoff spot this year. That's the world they live in there, but I don't think you should say this win means nothing if that's what you're trying to say. Well, if you're a Knicks fan.
I'm not saying that. I do.
Yeah, no. If that's what you're trying to say, like some Knicks fans would think like, oh, you just beat this beleaguered team. Yes, this team is way down with injuries, but Nikola Vucevic is really good. Aaron Gordon went full Aaron Gordon at the end of that game and lost his mind and played and was making mistakes. But for the majority of that game, he was playing smart basketball and playing his best self. But I get it. Cole Anthony, the rookie point guard, is going to cause a lot of problems there, and he's in a spot in no circumstances he should be in. But it's still. You think
that was a nice, and we should say it was what'd they get him at? I forget, 18, 15, 16?
I think 15.
Was it 15? No, they had the 15th. They didn't trade down, so there was a 15th pick then. Okay.
I want to say 15, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was defensible, right?
He's the guy they wanted. So they really wanted him, and they like him. And it's way too early to make a judgment on him. I think that he's a lot better than the percentages he's shown so far. He's done a lot of good things. And if Fultz didn't get hurt, he's
carrying a heavy load too.
He's carrying way too. That's why Gordon is playing a point forward role right now too, because they don't want to put that much responsibility on Anthony. I mean, he's playing like 29 minutes a game right now. Before Fultz got hurt, there were a couple games where he played like fewer than 20 minutes. Okay. So I think if this were a normal season, he would be probably averaging like 20 minutes per game for the season. And now he's going to be thrown into a starting role.
It's essentially what a lot of Knicks fans, and I have to count myself amongst them, despite the fact that he was uneven today and Elfrid Payton actually had a really good game. That's what a lot of fans want to see with Immanuel Quickley. Put him into the starting role and just, toss him in. And I think you're seeing with Cole Anthony how that can be a little dangerous. I think Quickley maybe is a little bit more prepared for this level with his shot and shot making ability. But no, I think Cole will be okay. I don't, and he made some big shots today. I want to talk about the Knicks start because we're sitting here. Mm-hmm. They are 7-8 and you get so deep. And you write about this team, you podcast about the team. I write about the team every day. I podcast about the team. Get so deep into the forest. And I was walking downstairs. I told you I took a shower because I was just feeling. I did my post game thing, and I don't know if anybody noticed when they were watching. I was wearing a hoodie, and that's because I had not changed out of the shirt that I had worn for the previous day's post game live stream. So I texted you before. I'm like, let me just take a quick shower. And I'm coming downstairs. I'm thinking to myself, the New York Knicks are 7-8. Like, in what universe would anyone have thought that would have been possible this season? Like, right? Am I off or because you know me, I get very optimistic. So, where you come down on where they started?
I'm shocked. I mean, I'm obviously very surprised and glad. Anybody who isn't happy about the start, I don't know how you couldn't be happy about a 7-8 start. through 15 games, especially remember when the schedule came out and how hard it looked, and everybody was like, oh my God, look what they did to the Knicks. Like a 7-8 start. Oh my God, I'm thrilled.
They've been favored in 2 games.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they lost those games.
I know.
So it's like, what, yeah, it's and Randall even said today, speaking of one of those losses, when somebody, I forget who asked him the question about like, oh, you're heading into the West Coast swing, winning 2 games in a row. And he's like, it should have been 3 or it could have been 3, he said.
That Cavs loss sucked. That really sucked.
But
they should have won that game.
If they call a kickball there on Andre Drummond, which it would have been nice if they would have called that. There's a real possibility the Knicks are sitting with a winning record after 15 games. But again, how anyone complains about it? I mean, even did we ever agree on a Cade, like a tanking for Cade, like slogan, like a rhyming thing?
I thought I said crusade. Wasn't there crusade for Cade or something like that?
Fade for Cade.
Fade for Cade.
Fade for Cade, I think was the one. Even the fade for Cade people, I don't know. Like, if you look at the standings, I still like. There's going to be an opportunity to get in the running, and I don't. Yeah, I first of all, I can't even talk to those people. If you're not happy about 7 and 8, I don't know. You need to re-examine your life priorities, especially since we're going to talk about some other hot starts that they've had. I think there is more a feeling of legitimacy to this one because of like who is doing the heavy lifting, of everybody, like who Barrett, there's been some tweets floating around today. I think it was his 4th game in a row. He had either 19 or 20 or more points. Like, he looked good today again. And he's looked good a lot lately, right?
And another double too. He had like 20. He had 20 and 10, right?
He had I'm pulling up the tweet. Good old Hoop Central, who I think pissed some people off with some tweet earlier this year, but they're usually good. His last 4 games. So today was 22 and was today 22 and 10 or was today 20 and 5? No, today was 22 and 10.
22 and 2 and 10, yeah.
Okay, last game before that 19 and 11. Game before that 20 and 4. Game before that 20 and 5 and either 3 or 4 assists in every one of those games. I think his field goal percentage for the 4 games in total is hovering a little bit below 50%. He's now above 75% from the line. How about this one here? I got to go one for it. I was looking this up before. He is right now. This is a guy who looked like he did not belong anywhere near a free throw line last season. As we sit here today and record this, it might change by Wednesday when this pod comes out, but I'll say it for now. He is 20th in the league in made free throws. He's made 55 of 73 attempts.
That's huge. That's huge. That's way bigger than the 3-point percentage right now to me. Like, especially he only took 3 3-pointers today, by the way. I know he missed all of them, but the fact that he didn't go out there and shuck up 8, I think says a lot about his shot selection today. That's big.
Where do you fall? We don't really like Jeremy, who I do the pod with on Sundays. Like, we don't really get into analytics that much. He's not really an analytics guy. He's more of a cap guy. I'm a little analytics-y at times. Where do you? Because to me, at this point, and I've kind of written something to this effect recently, I almost want to tell RJ, like, okay, that's fine. You could take your couple of 2, 3. If it's like we're wide open and it's like, as Tibbs always says, right, it's the right play. But if there's an opportunity for him to get something inside the arc right now, I want him. I think there's basically what I'm saying is I think there's a line to toe. And even if for the time being, he's taking the quote unquote inefficient shot and bypassing the 3 to maybe dribble into a 16-footer, I'd rather see that for him right now for where he's at in his development. Yeah.
The mid-range shot, no one ever says it's inefficient when it goes in. So, I mean, I don't see why when he takes it more often than not, it goes in. So I don't buy this narrative like, oh, the nerd with the calculator is ruining RJ Barrett. I also don't buy that he's taking too many threes because of that. I don't think he should abandon taking open threes altogether. But if he feels more comfortable taking in a couple dribbles and shooting a mid-range, of course, that's what he should be doing. Like the best mid-range shooters are Devin Booker, CJ McCollum, Dame Lillard. Steph Curry's an amazing mid-range shooter. All those guys start out as great. Devin Booker's an amazing. I forgot Chris Paul.
Chris Paul.
Sorry, Chris Paul.
Is he the greatest mid-range shooter?
Chris Paul,
of this century, maybe.
Yeah, that I've ever seen. Yeah. And
no,
I mean, yeah, RJ needs to do whatever makes him feel comfortable. So if that's what makes him feel comfortable, then yeah, he should start out with the mid-range game.
Yeah, I'm looking his last. So he was 0 for 3 from 3 today, but his last 4 games from 3, or 3 before this, it was 1 for 4, 2 for 4, 2 for 4. But I like that number, like 3 or 4 3-point attempts a game. That feels right for him. As opposed to the 6, 7, 8 range. Maybe someday they get there, but. So yeah, Barrett's been great, and I mean, quickly, we could talk about Emmanuel quickly for an hour. Dude, the floaters, the floaters,
amazing.
What else do you say about the floater? Yeah, I mean, he already has a McCollum level floater game. This is insane.
It's amazing. What can you say that Chris Persianen hasn't already said on his Twitter and his halftime show? Like he said all that needs to be said, hasn't he?
No, he's been all over it. And Knox has been chipping in, and Mitch has been doing his thing. But even like a guy like Randall, he's when a guy like Randall plays like this, and I think that's been the really interesting thing that happened this season. It goes from, like, to me, this did, and this will be a good transition into talking about comparing this season to the last 3 times the team had a better than expected start. This to me feels differently than when, like, Enes Kanter was putting up numbers at the beginning of the 2017-18 season, because, like, there was never a sense, ever a sense that Enes Kanter was going to be a part of, like, the long-term solution for the New York Knicks. And Randall, and I know he had a bad game against the Magic, but I think Randall is giving you a different sense, and that either he can be a part of the long-term solution here, or can get you something really significant via trade if you play your cards right. And we don't need to talk about that today, but it's actually interesting. One last thing before we move on to talking about some of these other hot starts. We mentioned Vooch before. I just brought up Randall now. I wonder if either of these, the Knicks, who knows what they're going to do with Randall. I wonder if the Magic would entertain fielding offers for Vooch.
If the Magic would entertain it, no.
You don't think they would move him?
No. They don't want to go back to the gutter that they were in for however many years it was, 6, 7 straight years. Yeah, because, like that without Dwight Howard. They don't want to go back to that gutter, that 20-25 season without making the playoffs and just being embarrassingly bad. And that's what it would mean.
This is the second year of his deal. He signed for 4 for $100.
And the deal's declining too. It's a really good deal. 24 next year, 22 after that.
I mean, if you could get a guy who's an all-star, and granted, he's like, there's different ways to say, like, oh, he's an all-star. Is he the 20th best player in the league? Is he the 23rd best player in the league? Whatever. He's somewhere. Is he the 19th best player? Mm-hmm. He's in that range, right? But, like, if you could get that dude for, like, less than a max contract, that's a win. And Gordon, obviously, his deal is eminently movable. Like, they could tank so easily this year, and I get what you're saying. They don't want to do that, but I to me, like, if they put him on the table, that's the only other guy other than Randall who I feel like could be a big man potentially available around the trade deadline this season. That a team maybe could look at and be like, maybe that's worth it for us to give something. But you say they won't trade him. I don't think the Knicks are going to trade Randall. Do you?
No, I don't think they should trade Randall either. And I also don't think the Magic should trade Vucevic. So I don't think either team should trade either guy. Yeah. I mean, the Knicks. Wait, do you think they should trade Randall? I actually want to know that if you think they should.
It would have to, like, let me put it this way. For Marcus Morris, I was at the point where it was like, just whatever the best offer is. If the Clippers offer is the best offer, sure, just move him. Take whatever you can get. with Randall, that's not the case. It is not about take whatever the best offer is that's on the table. It's about the offer has to be really, 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 it has to be a too good to be true offer. I don't think somebody will make it, which is why I don't think they will trade him. And I on the whole, don't think that they should. But again, never say never, because if there's
Devontae Graham, if that.
Well, you were the one. Listen, you were the one who brought it up, man, and I wrote about it. Devontae Graham and the Hornets' unprotected first round pick. If that's what's on the table, then I might have to do it. But even then, it's like Devontae Graham. What is Devontae Graham?
I love Devontae, but I don't know.
I love Devontae Graham too. I think he's a difference making player when he's going right, but he's also really small. I don't know if he's really a starting caliber point guard in the league. If you want to be a good team. I don't know. It's so easy to be like, yeah, get the 15th or 16th pick in this draft. Like, but Randall's really good.
Yeah.
Okay. So good transition, because I want to compare this team very quickly before we get out of here, to the last 3 hot Knicks starts that have turned out to be fool's gold. So I'll go through these in receding order in terms of when they happened. The most recent one, 2017-18 season, coached by Mr. Jeff Hornacek. I'm looking at Basketball Reference. Underneath Coach Jeff Hornacek, it says executive. And you know whose name is next to the word executive?
I'm looking at it right now.
Mr. Stephen Mills, take a bow. So that team started off 16-13. And if you want to push it 2 games further, 17-14. And they ended up 29-53. The next year, the preceding year, so this is now 2016-17, also coached by Jeff Hornacek, executive Phil Jackson. Different executive. But also started off 16-13. And they ended up the season 31-51. Although notably there were some injuries that hit that team, but not like the KP and the Tim Hardaway Jr. Injuries the next year. So gosh, talk about paper tigers, 16-30, but we'll talk about that in a sec. And then the other one that I feel like deserves mentioning, and a lot of people forget about this one, but I don't forget about it because I remember being excited at the time. 2008-2009 season, Mike D'Antoni's first as coach, executive Donnie Walsh. All hail Donnie. That team started off 6-3, and then they eventually got to 11-12 before the wheels fell off, and they finished 32-50. I know you remember these 3 years well because you're a dutiful fan. You watch these things all the way through. Do you think of any of those? Do any of those seasons remind you at all of this season, either good or bad, or what do you think?
No, not really. And maybe 08-09. No, I should say no outright. Maybe 08-09, if any of them. Because
why 08-09?
Because that was D'Antoni's first year, and this is Thibodeau's first year. And maybe that's just me. And I had such high hopes, unreasonably high hopes, maybe, for Mike D'Antoni, because I loved the Phoenix Suns and Steve Nash, and I thought, okay, we're getting this guy. And maybe that was the death of my Knicks positivity as a fan, watching Mike D'Antoni and Carmelo Anthony flame out altogether. But I had high hopes for the guy, and Donnie Walsh was a legend, and he was going to bring us to a championship, and that was a fraud too. But I mean,
we will not besmirch. There are a few names that I hold sacred, and even though I myself have been unkind in retrospect to Donnie Walsh doing what he did this season and taking a fun little team and almost 2 full years away from the free agency of 2010, trading away its core for literally nothing but cap space. I think I hold him at fault for that. But I think highly of that. I like Donnie Walsh.
I like him. It's just there were such high expectations there, and he didn't deliver. I don't know. D'Antoni too. There were such high expectations with those. So I would compare it to 08-09 because when D'Antoni I remember when D'Antoni came in the press conference and all the articles, and there was such hype because he was so successful, and there was hope. And I was a huge Jamal Crawford fan. So I was, of course, excited about Jamal Crawford and any way he played. But the trade was devastating when they just unloaded all of those guys and dumped off all those guys. I remember thinking, why aren't they keeping Jamal Crawford around? Like, I was such a novice in terms of basketball. I had no.
Well, no, I mean,
then, like,
but I think everybody, and I did it at the time. I was like, oh my God, Donnie Walsh did the impossible. At that time, people forget those contracts, the Crawford contract and the Zach Randolph contract, which was the other big one. Those were looked at as unmovable contracts. People looked at it and said the Knicks are never going to be in a position to sign LeBron James because they have this bad money on the books, thanks to Isaiah Thomas. And I think it was, there was this perception that Isaiah had saddled the franchise for like almost literally decades. That's what it felt like, right? With these bad deals. And when Donnie got that money out of here, everybody was like, oh my God, he did this. Whereas I think, there was a savvier way to play that, which was like, let D'Antoni continue coaching those guys. And maybe it turns into a fun, and maybe their trade value increases a little bit more. And sure as shit, what ended up happening? Jamal Crawford wins however many 6 Man of the Year awards. And Zach Randolph makes an all NBA team after the Knicks moved him.
Imagine the numbers Jamal Crawford would have put up in a Mike D'Antoni offense, man.
He was doing it. He was doing it for the Knicks offense that year. I'll look at it right now. I don't want to get too far off track, but I love going down these memory lanes. He was putting up 20 points, 19.6 to be exact, 4.5 assists a game, and he was hitting. You gotta love this. Through 11 games, he had been hitting 45% of his 7 3-pointers a game, which back in 2008, taking 7 threes a game was pretty significant. Man, yeah, no, that was a fun team. So yeah, I think that's a good comp actually, because, and you know what it would be like? Imagine if, not that they're gonna do this, but imagine if Leon Rose traded Julius Randle, tomorrow.
Capitalize on a hot start. Yeah, it's so hot. Yeah.
For whatever he, for a first round pick or for a pick and a young player. So like, that's what it would be like. And I think we would always be left maybe wondering like, oh, what if that was such a fun, nice start to the regime? That's a good comp. So that's funny that to me, the obvious comp, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but to me, it's 2017-18 because Porzingis, not that I like to say his name on this podcast, but, he had that start. I looked it up today. His first 15 games, he averaged 27 points. He was shooting 40, almost 50% from it. It was like 47, 48%, something like that. It was good. He was making 40% of his threes. He was just, it looked apart. And there was like a nice, fun cohesion to the team. Like they won a few games they weren't supposed to win. Frank had the rookie excitement over Frank. He made a couple big shots, and like you had Cantor doing his thing. It's like, okay, it's a fun little team. Tim Hardaway Jr. suddenly doesn't look like the worst contract. That's what this, if anything, reminds me of. But at the same time, this also feels a little bit different. This feels more legitimate than that.
Yeah, I get what you mean. With Kristaps had kind of the same sort of excitement as Randall. Like there was that. It looks like a guy who could be there for a while and maybe be the cornerstone of a team. But I don't know, the excitement that I have with, maybe it's because I'm a Duke fan, so I'm always gonna root harder for RJ. But the excitement that I have for RJ and Randall, I don't think I ever really reach that level of excitement for Kristaps. And I'm not just saying that because the way we think of that now, like maybe it's just because he was never healthy long enough to build up that level of excitement. He had like nice stretches where you were like, holy shit, this guy's the guy. but then he would just get hurt and you'd be like, oh, well, I don't know. Maybe he's just a guy who's going to be hurt all the time. And you'd be worried. I remember being worried about his health. That's what I remember being and concerned. Maybe he can't post up. Yeah, like Draymond Green would kick his ass. Yeah. There was the concerns about he can't post up.
There was, oh my God, this guy doesn't ever pass.
Mm-hmm.
I remember who had the article. It was someone for, maybe it was Chris Herring or someone else for like 538 or something, but somebody came out with an article that literally, it was like, this guy passes less than anybody in the league that touches the ball as much as he does.
Yeah, the Whiteside article you wrote about.
That's
the Whiteside, yeah.
There it is. Yes. There you go. Good memory. Good memory.
Yeah.
good job by you. And of course, there was a durability issue, which I remember I was at, I don't know if you remember the Brooklyn game. It was in Brooklyn. I was at the game where Porzingis came down funny on he landed funny or something. And he missed the rest of the game. And the immediate assumption was that he was going to be out for a while. And I think he actually came back and played the next night. And then he ended up tearing his ACL, I think it was a few weeks later. So it was kind of foreshadowing there. But yeah, no, I like, if you think about the young players on that 2017-18 team, it was, I'm literally going to group them by experience in the league right now. So there was, Frank was a rookie. Dotson was a rookie. Free Dot forever. Willie Hernan-Gomez was a second-year player that was buried on the bench. remember all of the consternation about Willie Hernan-Gomez?
God, there used to be fierce debates about
Willie
Hernan-Gomez.
People had their torches. They would light their torches. Why isn't Willie Hernan-Gomez play Willie Hernan-Gomez? That was one bandwagon I never got on. Had Kristaps was in his third year. And then you had that they had McDermott on that team, who was he was a fourth year player, so he was still kind of young. You had Hardaway was in his fifth year. And then you had Cantor, he was in his seventh year, and then the rest were like kind of old retread type guys. and Jared Jack, of course, in his 13th year. No, but this is between, so you mentioned, we talked about Randall and RJ, Obi, Quickly, Knox. Who am I forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting someone obvious. Another young player on this team.
Did you say Frank?
I did not say Frank, but yeah. I didn't forget Frank.
Oh.
Listen, man. Look, and can I just say, I got a few. I think it was, I forget, somebody tweeted at me or something. I don't know, but some people will be giving me shit because they're like, that you've sold Frank out and like this and that. I'm like, look, I've given Frank every chance to convince me that my investment in him, my emotional investment in him, was warranted. And I can't very well sit here and be like, oh no, don't worry, he's still definitely part of the future, or he should definitely be part of the future of this team, and they have to factor him in to their future plans, when like this is now the fourth year in a row or the third year in a row where he can't stay on the court. So no, I did not mention, but I forgot to mention somebody else that I feel like is. Did
you say Mitch and RJ?
That's what I didn't say. I didn't say Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah.
How can I? Guy's huge. How can I forget about him? And they're RJ is 20, Mitch is 22, Knox is 21, Quickly is 21, Obi Toppin is 22. It's like, there's 5 guys right there. All of whom, if you told me like they're going to play a significant role in whatever the hell the Knicks are going to do from here on in, will they? Probably not all of them, but some of them might, probably will. Yeah, but at the same time, they're only 7-8, right?
Yeah. I will say, like you said, I've known you a couple years. I can't believe we're at a point where I feel like I'm higher on Frank Ntilikina than you are. Like when I met you, you were like driving the Frank Ntilikina bus. You can't believe we're at this point.
But that was also because so let's take a step back. They were the one team we did not talk about, the hot start team, the 2016-17 team, which right. I have watched this franchise play basketball since 1993. That is when I first really started investing my time as a fan. The 2016-17 season, without question, more than any of the Isaiah years, more than the late in years, more than the couple of like like 2013, 14, when they had high expectations and they fell flat on their face. That 2016, 17 season was the most frustrating season I've ever had as a fan, because it was like, what is going on? Like, it doesn't even look like basketball to me. And I understand they got out to a 16-13 start, but it was no plan. There was no rhyme or reason to anything that they were doing. Like, Kristaps was there. He looked good, the whole thing. And then Frank came along and I was like, oh my God, there's a real basketball player who could do like the little things, the things that this shitbag of a team that I just watched for a year didn't do any of those things. This kid is doing these things. And so how did you not come to love him? And then when he's gotten a chance to really perform over the years, he has, given you reason to continue to be hopeful. And I still think he's going to be good, but I just can't. It is unfair to the Knoxes and the Toppins and the Quickleys of the world for me to put Frank in the same category as those guys this year.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. How could I, but I hope, listen, nobody would be happier to have this thrown back in my face than me. Frank, if you're listening, I still love you. But yeah, man, I think it feels more real, but at the same time, do I think that they're going to finish around a 500 with a 500 record? I'd be lying if I do. What was your prediction before the season? I feel like we
did do this. Yeah. I think their over under was like
22 and a half.
22 and a half.
22 and a half.
I think I said 25. I went pretty low. I wanted to say like 28, but I think I went 25. What did you do?
I think I did either. God knows, I should have written this down somewhere. I think I went with 28 on the high end, 26 on the low end. So I'll split the difference and say I went with 27. But with keeping in mind that a 500 record would be 36 and 36.
Yeah.
As we sit here today, do you have an updated prediction or do you want to stick with 25?
I feel like I should stick with 25, but
you can do it. I mean, listen, it's your world. I'm just living in it.
Yeah, they look so much better than we thought they would. I feel like if I change it, I'm falling into a trap, but I feel I'm safe. I feel I'm safe upping it a couple wins. I'm going to up it to your 28. I'm going to go with 28.
Up it to my 28?
Yeah.
All right. So let me do some quick math. So they have won 7 games right now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So for them to win 28 games, they would need to go. I teach math, so that I should be able to do this. Right? They would need to win 21 more games and they've played 15. So that means they have 57 left to go, right? Okay, so 57 minus 21. I think I did that right. That would mean that they would go 21 and 36 the rest of the way to finish with 28 wins. That feels doable. 21 and 36 the rest of the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially winning 4 out of every no. I'm losing. Hold on. I'm gonna get this. We're gonna finish off strong here. 21 divided by 57. See, this is good. Yeah, that would be winning 37% of the rest of their games. Okay. I could see them. So a little less than 4 out of every 10 games. I could see them doing that.
Yeah, that's definitely doable for sure.
Yeah. Okay. That's where we will leave this one. This has been fun. I wonder when we get our Knicks Magic episode next year, will it be of a slightly higher caliber of basketball, or will it be another slog in the mud? Who's to say? I don't know, but it'll be fun, and we will do this again. Chip, can you tell the folks at home, please, where they could find you and your stuff?
Sure, man. Thanks. First of all, thanks again for having me on. And They can find me on Twitter, Chip Murphy. It's at Chipper Murphy, ChipperMurphy. Follow Chip. Chip's a good follow. He's a good follow, but he's a better guy. I'll say that.